Yeah, hold tight, people.
Hold tight,
people.
hold tight.
That's
Hi,
it.
James.
Hold tight, people.
Hello.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing?
We're very, very well. We are going to thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us. I am going to hand you over to Kirk because Kirk has been so excited. He's literally like, he's just got like a couple of pages of A4 questions.
I'm the Tesseract fanboy, so yeah.
He's a complete fanboy over here.
This is a signed copy of Portals, and I've got Ackle and Daniel Tompkins signed it. So I'll be bringing this on Friday, Cage Fight show. Yeah, I just want to start actually, James. Have you played Club 85 in Hitchin, Hertfordshire in the past?
A long time ago. I don't think I played it with. I don't think Tesseract's ever played there. A long time ago, me and Moss, the bassist from Tesseract, were in a rap metal band called 209. You won't have heard of us because we were terrible, and it was before we actually did anything. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm certain we played Club 89, but this would have been literally 20 years ago.
I mean, do you know, Andy and I are big fans of the debut Cage Fight album.
Oh, okay.
I'm just wondering, to what extent did that band become bigger than you anticipated?
It was interesting. It was never really a band. It was like basically a bit of a lockdown project that didn't really go anywhere. Well, basically it was just me and a mate just writing ideas, and it didn't really have any expectations. And then we wrote a couple of songs, and then it sort of we thought about getting a jam together, and that's when we started talking with Nick, the drummer. But then it sort of, I don't know, life sort of carried on and almost fizzled out a bit. But then when I saw Rachel do she did a Fear Factory cover, and there's a Black Dahlia made a cover on that she posted. I think it was early 2021, and she had a little line saying "looking for a band." So I was like, "Oh, that voice might be interesting." And so I sent her like an instrumental, and she like wrote one of the songs in literally 24 hours, and so then. Between there and 6 months later, we had written a whole album, and it was just sort of, everything clicked. So we got together with Nick, and then the four of us, with John, who's the old bass player, we basically made an album in 6 months. So I was a bit like, well, maybe we've got something here, because it was just a vibe thing. There wasn't a huge amount of thought put into it. It was just, we just wrote something that was really fun, and yeah, so I guess it just picked up momentum because it was so quick in that respect, and. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that we've done a load of cool festivals, tours and so on, and now we're on to our second album, and yes, pretty excited to see how it randomly took off a little bit.
Well, that's what me and Andy want to know. When can we expect a new Cage Fight record?
Well, we're literally in the studio right now. Actually, all the drums are tracked. We're working on guitars and bass at the moment, and mid-December we. Do vocals, so it should all be recorded before Christmas, which is exciting. So the answer to answer the question, though, I don't know when it'll be released. It'll be next year at some point. I reckon summer. Just randomly throwing that out there, but hopefully a single sooner rather than later. I'd like to think.
Yeah, it was. So I'm the editor of a site called Screen Blast Repeat. We do actually review quite a few Hold Tight artists.
You do, yeah. Thank you for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and 2022 album of the year was Cage Fight, debut album. It was quite an easy choice. That it just stood out for me, that album. But can we? Because I am a self-declared fanboy of Tesseract, I've got a few questions about Tesseract. If that's all right.
Of course.
So you're doing a second world tour in support of 2023's War of Being. Why did you decide on another year of touring rather than starting work on a new record in 2025? Because it's quite unusual 2 years later, isn't it? Even like the biggest bands of the 90s in this, if they put an album out in 93, it's rare that they'd still be touring it in 1995. What's the thinking there?
Well, I think Europe, we'd had that planned for a while because it's basically going to everywhere we didn't go. Well, not everywhere, because somebody will pop up saying, "Oh, you haven't come to me," but basically, there's no city that's the same as the last European tour. So it's basically either hitting smaller cities, like for example in the UK, I think we're doing like Brighton, Cambridge, Leeds, Cardiff. Is that it? There's another one, I think.
Are you doing Southampton?
No, we're not doing Southampton. We're doing Brighton.
Right.
But it's South Coast. So yeah, that's basically that in Europe. Although I think we are going to like Rome and Italy, which is obviously a big city, but we didn't make it last time. Um, so yeah, that was the thinking behind that. And we work. The idea is to start writing a new album next year. In fact, we've got plans to do that. But then we got offered this tour supporting Devin Townsend in the States in May, and that's kind of an opportunity you can't really pass up because I think it'd be really, it's good for us to do because his audience, it would be great for us to be exposed to them, even though there is some crossover. He has a bigger audience, so that's good for us. And also, Devin was our first ever tour of the USA, which was 15 years ago now. And so we know him and we know his crew really well, so it would just be a lovely time. So there's absolutely no way we could like not do that. But then after that, we don't really have any plans. Then, I mean, we're looking at maybe the odd festival offer, but we're not going to do a big festival season. The idea is next summer to get into writing and get new material on the way. I was about to say a new album on the way, but I don't even know if that's the plan yet. At the moment, it's just get material done, get songs.
Yeah, it's not before COVID. You were on a 3-year cycle, weren't you, Tesseract, for each record? So it'd be good to get back to that. I just want to. I went to Daniel Tompkins' solo show just when the COVID restrictions were lifted at the Boston Music Room, and I met A.D.K, and I said to him, when I'm listening to albums like Polaris, I basically said Tesseract are like a prog metal band writing music for the Cure and Depeche Mode's audience around 1990, and he didn't mind it. He just laughed and said, "Oh, Sisters of Mercy" as a joke. What are your thoughts on that? Especially like Sonder and Polaris. I'm hearing those two bands. I'm not saying you're influenced by them. It's just so unique what you're doing.
I think I get what you're saying. I think it's a mixture of maybe some of the approach to the melodic tones, but also I know those eras of pop music had really distinct sort of like musical hooks, and that's one thing that A.D.K, I think, is particularly inspired by, is say a guitar melody that is very memorable. I think it's the track Survival is actually very influenced by one of those bands. I'm trying to remember which track it is, but there's it's very actually he'd probably kill me if I said it because he I don't want people to know because they'll think I ripped it off, but it's obviously more of an instinctive thing. I can't actually remember which band or song it was, but that era of music is definitely an inspiration on the band, so that makes sense. I mean, it's a bit more pop, but we used to nickname Dan Duran because we used to think he sounded a bit like Simon Le Bon.
Well, speaking of nicknames, you are known as James Metal Monteith, aren't you, in the band? They actually call you Metal, because when I watch live streams, they'll talk about, they don't say, "Oh, James is coming round tonight for rehearsal." Just be like, "Oh, Metal's coming round." Did you have an impact on Dan going back towards some of the harsher vocal techniques on the last album?
That was very much Dan's decision, actually. I think Dan wanted to be more dynamic and like have as big a range as possible, and also I'm slightly speaking for him, but I think on the last two records, the two records prior to that, he was really developing his singing, and that became his focus. And he also didn't want to damage his voice. And sometimes screaming, if your technique isn't great, can be detrimental. And so he had been working on his screaming technique to get it to a standard where it doesn't affect him at all. And I think like when we came around to this record, he was finally comfortable with his ability to absolutely deliver every tonal range effortlessly. So because he's been working very, very hard over the last decade, right? He's constantly studying, learning, practicing, and I think he felt that on this album it was time to bring back more harsh vocal.
Yeah, I mean he's a vocal coach, isn't he? He actually does that for a living, and some of the packages that are out there are quite impressive. See, the reason I'm going to ask this next question, because Dan wasn't actually on this album, but what's your favourite Tesseract record at the moment outside of War of Being? Because inevitably you're going to go with the one that you've just released. Which one do you find yourself going back to? Or do you go back to your music? Some musicians don't, do they? They don't want to listen to it.
I mean, it's quite funny actually, because we're talking about our new sets next year, and I'm trying to think of songs we haven't played and couldn't think of any, so I had to go back through the albums and have a look. I don't know. I feel like I'm literally opening my Spotify now to remind
You're
me.
having a look at your own discography that you can't remember.
I remember when you look at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're all. I don't really have a favorite because they're all specific moments in time. Like the first album was probably one of the most exciting because it was when it all began and when things really started to move for us. And then Altered State was also exciting because I think that was when I guess Tesseract's sound became a lot more refined. And but then Polaris and Sondo were. Yeah, they're both all different experiences. I don't really have a favourite.
See, I find myself going back to Altered State out of all of them. And it's really that song of Energy, I think, that did it for me. And I kind of got back into that through the Polaris album. When you went into the studio during COVID and did this like best of set. Really to support the music industry as much as anything, wasn't it? And I think when I heard that version with Dan on vocals, I've just always been listening to Altered State out of all the records that I own, more than others. That's I would say that's my favourite.
That's my favourite song. It's one of the hardest songs to play. After we did the Portals the stream over COVID, we actually brought that back for a bit live. We did a tour with Dream Theatre, so we're like, we're touring with Dream Theatre. Let's pull out the really hard one. And I mean, it was good, but I don't know. It's difficult in that you couldn't really have a beer before the show because you couldn't risk not being on top form and completely ruining it.
Yeah, I mean that song Juno is insane. Every time I listen to that, because of I call your music technical minimalism, which is obviously a paradox, isn't it? But that one, you've got to be really sharp, haven't you, to be playing that live Juno?
Weirdly, that's complete muscle memory now. When we first started playing it, it was really difficult. And when the first tours, there were a couple of shows where we really scuffed it up and we kind of got away with it. One person fucks up, you can kind of get away with it. There was one time I remember in Manchester Academy though, the end part, basically me and Ackle both got completely lost. The guitars were open, we both stopped because we couldn't where we were. It was an absolute shambles. But now it's complete muscle memory. It's actually surprisingly easy because I think it's just got lodged in the brain. It's not too hard technically to do. It's just rhythmically it's complicated. But once your brain becomes hardwired to do it, with like a lot of these songs, it then just becomes quite easy.
I bet you love playing. Was it Concealing Fate parts 1 to 4?
I mean 1 and 2 are good staples, and 3 as well. In fact, they're all quite good fun.
It gives you a chance to spin your head when you're playing those riffs, doesn't it? Just one more question for me. I know Andy's got a question about Cage Fight as well. So this channel, the ADK Rock and Metal, actually started as a project called How to Meet Your Idols. The idea, Dave, wasn't it? We were going to do a documentary. We chose 5 people each who we wanted to interview, and it was all really about filming what our efforts are, how we can make this happen. We were not very successful. So on mine, I have Mike Patton, Robert Smith of The Cure, Tom G. Warrior from Celtic Frost, Spencer from Peripheries, obviously your friend, and Greg Puciato from the Dillinger Escape Plan. Dave, which 5 did you have for your idols? No, Rob Flynn was one.
I had Rob Flynn, Ali Buttar, The Warning, Sully Erna,
the guy from Pitch
someone
Shifter.
else.
From Pitch Shifter, J.S. Claydon.
Oh, J.S. Claydon, which I did get a chance to meet. Yeah,
Dave, sorry, Andy, who did you have? Which 5?
I was aiming high, wasn't I? I had Steve Harris, Barney Greenway.
Yeah.
But we did manage to interview Liv Christine.
We did.
Aaron Stainthorpe.
Yeah.
And who else did I have? I can't remember my 5th idol.
We always forget one of them.
So that our question then, James, because that's how this channel came into being. If you were to interview 5 legendary musicians, who would you choose? Putting you on the spot.
I mean, can they be dead?
They're not going to say much, but go for it.
They've got to be alive then. I think we do need to make that a condition.
All right, yeah. Okay, legendary musicians who are alive. I guess we're going to go high. I'd have to pick the Het because he is, one of, like, aside from lots of the, I don't know, I'm not a fan of anything really after the Black Album, but the early work of Metallica, his rhythm guitar playing is an absolute game changer. If it wasn't what he did, I don't think you'd have like Sugar, and then you wouldn't have basically everything that followed that. Because he was, such a pioneer in rhythm guitar playing style. He would be one.
Definitely.
Who else would I have? Have Michael Hackerthorpe from Opeth, just because he's a right laugh. I've met him once or twice. Seems very nice. I'd love to have a sit down and a big chat with him. And obviously, legendary band. Their new album's amazing. Yeah, and then like Blackwater Park are massive important records.
Yeah.
Slash from Guns N' Roses. Again, ADK. Yeah. Just because I'd want to hit. I mean, first band I ever got into, I was like 12, but also I'd just love to hear some of his stories. I bet he has got hours worth of entertaining things to talk about.
Is he half? Is he an British citizen as well? Is he half English?
Yeah, he's from Stoke-on-Trent.
That's it. Yeah, you just want to associate Guns N' Roses, the most LA band of all time, and it turns out Slash is from Stoke-on-Trent.
I think that's so cool. Do I need more? How many more do I need?
You can think of two more, because I know you've got to head off for the Rock Sound anniversary event at Half Past, but any more you can think of?
Steve Vai. I think it'd be nice to, just because he's just such phenomenal, inventive guitar player, and he's quite a fascinating human, I think.
I think Devin can make that happen for you, can he?
Devin probably could make that happen, yeah.
He'll probably turn up on one of those North American shows, won't he, Steve Vai? Might do a guest solo, you'll be able to meet him.
Yeah, you never know. Oh, well, fingers crossed. So I'm just sort of thinking off the top of my head, I'm probably missing out on loads of people. Dr. Dre, and we'll talk about the history of gangster rap in the 80s.
That'd probably be the most interesting one out of the five in terms of the interview, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. There we go. There's my five.
Excellent. Andy, as a Cage Fight fan, I know you wanted to just ask a bit about the logistics of the band, didn't you?
Yeah. Hi, James. Thanks for joining us. Kirk sort of covered what I was going to ask about the sort of origins of the band, but I was going to say to you or ask, how difficult or easy is it for you all to get together for rehearsals and writing sessions? Because Nick's obviously in North Hertfordshire. I think Will is as well. Yeah. Rachel lives and works in London. I don't know where you are, but do you get together very often? Is it quite easy with those locations?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, Rachel lives 10 minutes down the road from me, so we're really near each other. And Will and Nick are very near each other. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's fine. You usually rehearse in North London, so it's an hour commute for all of us, and that's kind of like a central time-wise point. And for this record, I guess we did a lot of prep online. When we were driving to summer festivals, we did a lot of writing in the van together, which was really useful. And then for preparing for drum tracking, we just got together a couple of times, hashed out ideas, and I think it's all very convenient.
Good to hear. Thank you very much.
I have one question, because I'm always interested in it from a musician's point of view, which is, especially when musicians play in more than one band. So when you're writing and you come up with a great riff and something, do you kind of go, that's a Cage Fight riff, I'm going to put that one over there, or that's a Tesseract riff, or do you kind of just go, this could work in either band, and who's got projects on the go? How can you make a clear separation, or do you even just sit down and go, I need to write some stuff for Cage Fight today, and I'm just going to focus on that style of music?
Yeah, I think if my head's in a particular space, I'll focus on a certain thing. However, I think twice now there are things that I've written for Tesseract which haven't quite made it, and then I basically just dumbed it down and recycled it. But yeah,
I think that's one of those where you have a groove for Tesseract. Ackle's like, oh, I don't know how to fit this in. So you're like, right, I'm going to speed this up like Slayer, and it's going to Cage Fight.
Speed it up. Yeah, play fewer notes, make it faster. There you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what's the Rock Sound event then? Is it a 25th anniversary?
Oh, yeah, it's their 25th anniversary, and so I thought I'm going to stick my head in because it's obviously my day job. I'm a music publicist, so it's good to showcase these things. But also, can't believe that magazine's been going for 25 years. It's nuts. And I'm kind of hoping there'll be lots of people there throughout its history because I've been doing my job now for like 15 years, and prior to that, when I was in other bands, I dealt with rock sounds. I mean, dealt with rock sound about 20 years ago, even more than that. So I've kind of known the magazine throughout my whole kind of time in music. So it's it's quite nice. I'm really hoping like some of the old editors, like Darren Taylor, who was the editor at the start. I really hope he's about, and people like that. Yeah, be interesting. Should be a nice evening.
I remember buying the first issue of Rock Sound when it came out, and their album of the month was Silverchair Neon Ballroom. What an album that is! I was playing that recently. What else? And I think in that first issue you had Paradise Lost, Host. I know that was reviewed.
Wow.
It was an unbelievable first edition, and they had like the top 50 albums of all time. You know, you need something like that, don't you, to get people in? And I kind of felt I stopped reading it. Not really consciously. I just stopped buying it, I think, around 2002, and I switched to Terrorizer magazine. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh man, Andy, Terrorizer. That was the Bible, wasn't it? Certainly for street metal.
Miss Terrorizer with its cover mount CDs. Got in a lot of the bands from that, but yeah, that was the publication to go to for me as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, rock sound back in the early days was very eclectic. It was like, I mean, it covered everything from extreme stuff to like post stuff all the way through to punk and hardcore and metal. It was just like they covered everything. Whereas Terrorizer was just the brutal stuff.
Yeah,
it was.
But they went into real depth. Yeah, I used to love Terrorizer. I've got a copy of Terrorizer somewhere with like a limited edition. Which band is it? You can see their name. It's got what are they called? Doom band, really popular.
Oh, Electric Wizard.
Yeah. They had an Electric Wizard tape on the front, which is apparently very rare. So I keep clinging onto it like a collector.
Yeah, because like pre-internet, the two Terrorizer editions to me, they did the top 100 albums of the 90s. I remember buying that. And then when they did the one in the 80s, I think that came out in 2001. And I'd not heard of bands like Death and Voivod and all these bands because you didn't know what to look for, on Ask Jeeves or Yahoo or whatever the search engine was. So the role that played at the time, that magazine, for it, like death metal, I didn't know anything about it really, other than seeing like an obituary video on that Roadrunner compilation that used to come out, every year, and they'd have all the Roadrunner bands on, wouldn't they? So yeah, it's but now, I mean, just one question for you go then. Hold Tight PR. What are you going to be handling that new Ginger album? Because I know you did the last one.
Oh yeah, we're working on that right now. Actually, we shall get it over to you.
Did that come about? I mean, clearly on that, I would say on macro, I think they're influenced by Tesseract. I think they've admitted that, haven't they? Which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Did that come about because you know them?
No. I knew them later on, but in the early days, they're very much part of that tech metal scene, which is kind of sadly dissipated now. There aren't that many other bands, but if you go back, say, 10 years ago, when like Techfest was sort of at its prime, and there were loads of bands in this sort of world, Ginger were very much there. So I think they first played Techfest in 2016 or something like that, midway up the bill, which is amazing to see how well they're doing now. So I think we're just all part of the same world.
Yeah, because it's like, if you look at that scene, those bands, and you and Periphery, Veil of Maya, I put Monuments in there as well. Even after the Burial, bands like that.
Yeah,
fantastic. And I to me, that's what made metal interesting in the 2010s. I think Gent gets a lot of shit now, doesn't it? Because so many bands are doing it. But I wouldn't say there were really any other innovations musically in the 2010s, other than what you and Periphery were doing.
Yeah, which was kind of standing on the shoulder of Meshuggah to a degree. But I guess it was just taking that a bit further. Yeah, I don't know what if any what the latest musical evolution is. Lots of people are fusing different things together. I mean, you've got the popification of it with things like Spirit Box and Sleep Token. But yeah, I don't know. Not quite sure what the next innovation is in metal. But yeah, if you find out, let me know.
Those two bands you mentioned, they're actually very obviously influenced by Tesseract, aren't they? Courtney's on record. They asked her who her favourite bands are. Deftones, Tesseract, Meshuggah. Same with Sleep Token. We've actually covered on this channel, and I just said, you know, they're not doing that. Basically, Tesseract have been doing this, and they've just made it a poppier version.
And made it look sexier.
Yeah, well, by wearing masks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I know I could keep you here all night, James, but I'll be seeing you on Friday. I'll say hello and get my CD signed. But I know you've probably got to head off now. Then have you to the rock show? Sorry, the Rock Sound.
I'm up for a few beers on Friday, so it's Friday night. Let's have some drinks and have some fun.
Yeah, we'll pay for them.
Nice one, man. All right, well, I'll see you there.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
joining
James.
us, mate.
Cheers, James.
Okay, guys.
Take care.